throw balls far. You want good words? Data languager.
Talk real sports with a real man.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
And now, here's the be-all, end-all, know-it-all of high school, college, and pro sports. Aaron Skinny Count with the Skinny on Sports.
We're talking about practice, man. I'm the MVP.
Good Monday morning out there, Western Oklahoma. Welcome to the Skinny on Sports right here on 98.1 FM, the Sports Animal. Glad to have you along for the next hour. Oh, we're already getting questions. What happens if one of us win the tournament challenge? Well, don't have to worry about that with me. You know, this is an interesting question that we actually talked about on Friday with some of the brass. It's not like we're doing some sort of drawing that we can manipulate. This is simply everybody started on the same foot. Jared's not going to win, though, because Purdue's going to get beat by Gonzaga, and then Duke is going to lose to Houston.
Baylor was one of my Final Four.
Yeah, but guess what? You didn't lose your champions. If you look at mine, there's been a big red X over Kentucky from the very first. Now I've got a bunch of questions about the tournament coming up. I want you to rank the remaining 16 teams from best to worst. Who's the best, who's the worst of the Sweet 16? Look at the conferences. Pretty surprising which conference, at least to me, with the way that they played in the regular season and the limited amount of bids that they were able to earn. Pretty surprising to me which team has the most Sweet 16 participants. Did you hear that Danny Hurley's mad because the Big East only got 3 teams in the field? I don't know how you missed it, because every time he talks about what a travesty it is. Maybe even during his little interview after the first 5 minutes of the game, he might say, "See, I told you." It's getting old. But
yeah,
his team is good. If you had a mulligan, and I don't mean to pick it, you can't replace Baylor, in your bracket. Mm-hmm. They lost. Too bad. But if you could, if you had a mulligan now, it could either advance somebody further, or maybe you've got a team that made the Sweet 16, and you think, "Gosh, I wish I wouldn't have had them in the Final Four because they're going down."
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? Yeah. It has to be a team that you got right into the Sweet 16. I've got a major one that I literally switched right before the tip on Thursday. What's your favorite Sweet 16 game? Which game would you love to see, or games would you love to see in the Elite Eight? What have been the best ones so far? What have been the biggest surprises so far? We'll just talk all things bracket and NCAA tournament throughout the show. We'll see what Jared was up to last week since he wasn't with us. Did he find the magazine that Biff ended up with that ruined the culture in Back to the Future Part 2? Is he just missing a couple of these on purpose to get us off the scent that he actually has what the results are? We'll ask him about that. And then Jay Manning's going to come by and talk to us about Sayre Golf. We got the alumni coming up, and we also the Bob Fun 4-man 1st of May. So he's going to tell us all about both of those things when he comes flying in the studio. So that's what we got on tap for today. If you got something else, feel free to chime right in. 225-9698 is the phone or the text line. 225-9698. Tell us what you thought about your bracket, the tourney, and just everything that's happened so far in March Madness. It's going to be outside the listening area. You can stay in touch with the show a couple of ways. Log on to kadsam.com or download the app. The app has got it all. It's got the radio. It's got the penny news. Big Elk and Paragon TV are there as well during the high school hoops and football season. You can watch it right there at your fingertips. And then, for the first time in the history of Jared being gone, we actually have 5 Skinny on Sports podcasts for the entire year, one of which is about 23 hours and 59 minutes long. But I did remember to start it about on time every time. I think Wednesday's show, I had to stop and go around after about this point when I said podcast. I went, uh-oh, I forgot.
Yeah, thanks for the work. I think I knew what I was getting into.
Yeah, well, sometimes you don't have any work. Normally, when you're gone, you don't have to do anything because I don't remember to record it.
That's true. That's true.
So how was your week? Where did you go? What did you do?
We went up to Colorado to visit family up around Fort Collins area. It's a little town called Severance, but there's all these little towns around there. My brother-in-law lives up there, so we haven't been up there in 6 years. So we felt like we owed them a visit.
Because it seems like he comes down here a bunch more.
He comes down here a lot, and you know, a lot's happened in those 6 years. The last time we were up there, my littlest one was not even one, and Katie was and then you know, we kept delaying the trip because of, you know, getting so busy. And man, do we really want to drive all that time with little kids and have to stop and change diapers and stuff? Well, now the kids are just at the perfect age of 10 and 7. You give them an iPad, blanket and a pillow and snacks, and they're good to go. So we made the trip. It was nice. Good weather. I was afraid we'd run in the snow. That held off, and hung out with the brother-in-law and his kids are all teenage kids now. And what's cool is his middle child, Jack, played a baseball game at Coors Field
Oh, how
in
awesome.
Denver. So we spent the day in Denver on Wednesday last week. Got to check out downtown Denver and had lunch and checked out Coors Field, watched a high school baseball game in there. It's kind of like similar to what they do with the Bricktown, you know, little high school series. And checked that out. That was, again, pretty day. Hit up Topgolf that night. Just, you know, did the whole vacation thing. Hit up a couple breweries. Northern Colorado, there's some really good breweries. I'd encourage everybody to check out if that's your thing. And ate a lot of food and, you know, the typical vacation stuff. It was really good to see the family.
Man, so you were in Denver. I have no idea where this place is located, and I don't even remember what it was called. But there was one specific diners, drive-ins, and dives that I can remember, and it was in Denver.
You know, my wife said, we need to find a map or something, like a tour guide of diners.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a book out there where you can find that.
No doubt, or something online for sure.
She
But
said that before you even left.
so this dude, I mean, he just like blew guy's brain with a couple of things that he made. He if you've never tried to make a tater tot, you have no idea how hard it is to make a tater tot the way that you're used to having. Like, it's almost impossible. And so on this one particular place he went in Denver, this guy, and he even said, he goes, this is better than I do it. This is as close to what you think of as a tater tot with a homemade tater tot that anybody's ever done on the show, that I've ever even eaten. And then also the same guy made pork rinds. He went to the trouble of the whole process that was like a 2.5 day process just to get you a pork rind.
Huh.
And there was some kind of sandwich that looked awesome too, but it would have been just totally, what's the word? Random. It's not the right word, but random's close enough. If that would have been somewhere where you went.
We went to a restaurant that was right across the street from Coors. It's called Jackson's, I think. Right across the street from Coors. And you could tell it was a place, and I'm glad we went on a Wednesday in the middle of the week. It wasn't busy, but you could tell it's a place where people gather pre or post game. We walked where we parked, and we walked through this area, had this, it was like an outdoor breezeway type area between the buildings.
Yeah.
And had this giant TV. He said when there are big playoff games, Denver Nuggets have been the highlight of that because the Broncos haven't been doing anything, and neither has the Rockies. But he said this is where everybody gathers, and there's all these restaurants that are kind of around it. Pretty cool, outdoor heaters and stuff. You always see that when you're watching like NBA, like they'll go to the away team's hometown. You'll see them the watch parties, and took us into there. That was pretty cool. I will say this: it was cool on Sunday last Sunday. You know, the Nuggets played the Mavs in that afternoon game, and my brother-in-law had a bunch of his coworkers and buddies over. He has this little man cave watching the game, and I'm in the back rooting for the Mavs, knowing if the Mavs win, the Thunder take over to 1 seed, and that left-handed hook shot by Kyrie goes in. Everyone just sulks, and I'm in the back just grinning ear to ear, trying not to scream. Yeah. It's kind of funny. I was wearing neutral colors. They were big Mavs or Nuggets fans. It was funny. But Yeah, pretty cool. They're proud of their Nuggets up there. I tell you what, there's a lot of
As they should be.
There's a lot of championship gear being worn, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. But I encourage you to if you haven't been up in that area, it's so cool. Denver and Fort Collins, they're an hour apart, but it's starting to blend into one. It's because it was bumper to bumper traffic from Denver all the way up there, and I mean it's about an hour, like I said, from each other. But so much stuff going on. They open up a Buc-ee's between Denver and Fort Collins in a town called Johnstown. Of course, we had to go to Buc-ee's, and it was a madhouse and crazy and expensive because you have to grab everything that has Buc-ee's on it. Girls love that. There's everything. In-N-Out Burger, everything up there. Like I mentioned, Topgolf. It was a busy week, but I wouldn't call it relaxing because we were constantly doing something, but it was fun to see the family.
In Colorado State.
Colorado State and Colorado both were in the playing games, and
but there wasn't a whole bunch of excitement about Colorado State, at least after they beat Virginia. So that next game against Texas was
no.
They scored 11 in the first half.
I think we were out of town by then.
Were you?
What was that?
Thursday or Friday?
Thursday. Yeah, I can't remember what day it was, but we were up there for the playing
Would have been
games.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Would have been Thursday.
I think we were hitting the road. Just a 1 day drive. But yeah, it was
Colorado,
nice.
on the other hand, played some fun games.
They did.
Got to give it up to the Buffaloes.
The Buffs.
For playing some good games. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun.
It was nice. We owed him that trip. And he bought some land, so we got to check out his land that he's eventually going to build a house on. And I wanted to say, you're doing this too late because you got 3 teenage kids in this house. It's a little packed. You need to build a house now.
No, he's doing that way.
That's what he's doing. He's waiting for the kids.
It'll be done
he said in about 4 years when the kids are out of the house. That's when I'm building my mansion.
It's perfect timing.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, the drive through there, do you see some fire stuff?
Not as much as I thought. I think
it's probably blown away. The black part of it's probably blown away.
There's still some remnants of it, but it was, I think, our route took us through Wheeler, through Pampa, and then through, what's next? Stinnett, Borger, I can't remember. I think we stayed south of the major
part of it.
Burn scar that we would have seen. Now, we saw some, and you know what? When we went, you can smell it. I could still smell it.
Yeah.
But I didn't see the giant burn scar like I expected to see. I saw some of it, but not all of it. I was kind of bracing myself for that. But, no, I didn't see that. I actually drove through rain going there, which I'm sure that was nice for the Panhandle.
Oh, yeah. There was rain and maybe a tornado at Perryton yesterday.
Well, it was weird. Coming home, we drove through rain. So, but I was thinking, man, they need this. They definitely need all this.
Yeah, everybody could use just a little bit of it.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe not the tornado part, but
no.
A little bit of rain, skip the hail. Would have been nice for sure, but well, good.
Yep.
Very, very good. Question. I guess Fred Couples has already done it, but do you think Peter Malnati ought to be able to use his yellow golf ball at Augusta National? So he won yesterday in so that earns him a spot.
He won was that the Valspar?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Was he using a yellow ball?
Yes.
Listen, I didn't watch any of that. I was watching a bunch of basketball.
Yeah, I just happened to see it.
No, will Augusta let him?
Well, they let Fred, but Fred's a champ. Of course they're going to let him use his yellow golf ball. I just don't think it needs to be there. I always get a little chapped at Fred for using a yellow ball at Augusta.
What's the reasoning behind it? Is he colorblind or something, or just to help see it?
I guess. I don't know. Wants to be different. He's also got a bucket hat. He also topped a 3-wood on the round that he won the tournament. It's pretty wild. I was watching there for just a second. And it was at the first. When we were waiting on the next game, here comes Jay. Perfect timing.
Ask him.
Perfect time. I will ask Jay Manning, because we're going to talk about golf. All right. Joining us now.
I made it.
Are you are you the president?
I wouldn't. No,
you're not.
I'm not that guy. Not yet, anyway.
So you're just the guy that has to come talk to us about goings on at Sayre National. Jay Manning joining us. Question on the table right now is: So Peter Malnati, the guy that won yesterday at the Valspar, now gets to play in the Masters.
Yes.
And he plays with a yellow golf ball. Should he be allowed to play with the yellow golf ball at Augusta National?
Oh, man. That's tough. I would say, I guess if he can, but I don't like the yellow ball, so I would say no.
That's there we go. That's why Jay and I get along so well.
That's right.
All right, so there's a bunch of big goings-on over at Sayre National starting this weekend all the way through, the first week? It's first week in May. The tournament's getting kicked off over there. Tell us what's going on at Sayre.
Mainly, the golf course is getting greened up a little bit, finally getting some green grass growing. But a lot of things going on this week. Alumni weekend is approaching fast, and just got a lot going on, of course. It's a big time for Sayre, and the tournament 1 o'clock on Saturday is full, filled up faster, I think, than it ever has, which is amazing for us. Just kind of the direction the course has been going, and I think things are going really well out there right now.
And it looks as if you have made the correct order, at least on the weather on Saturday right now. I'm showing 83 and not the squiggly lines and no rain, at least right now. So, if people don't know what goes on over there, it starts at 10? Is that when the parade starts? And then basically all day long? Yeah,
Saturday is, pretty much all day. There's so much going on over there. You've got, the parade at 10. I know there's the softball tournament as well. Of course, I think they still do the basketball deal. I'm not sure on that, but the golf, of course, I'll be there all day, of course, and then, actually Friday night it'll start, a lot of people coming in and, and we'll be open for them to come out and, get back together. And then Saturday after the tournament, of course, you got Dean Jackson Band, which, he does a great job, plays for a very long time. I think it's 8 to midnight, keeps the crowd going. And it's just a really, really great evening for that little place.
Sayre National has really kind of filled the void for the alumni weekend. There was a place back, 5-10 years ago that's no longer there. And that's got to be pretty handy for everybody coming back and being able to go out there to a spot that's nice and just kind of hang out and talk to and see people they hadn't seen in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been really fortunate. Like you're talking about the weather, I don't even look at it until like Thursday because I get excited and then it always fails me. But the last few years it's been pretty good. A little chilly in the evenings usually, but we've just been it's a great place to go. Year round really, but for alumni it is the place to be, and we have a great time. The back porch is an amazing place to sit there and just enjoy the music and the fellowship. So we're really excited about it.
You got to talk about the Bob now, right?
Oh, the Bob too, yes. So the Bob is coming up. It'll be here before we know it, of course. May 4th and 5th. We need to kick off that. That's our our 2-day that I think it's just getting bigger and better. Getting some more sponsorships this year than we had last year, and it's just going to make it even more exciting. And like I said, just a lot better than it was at the previous years. And we're really excited about it.
That one's turned into the one of the premier tournaments in this area. Everyone talks about it, and you say the Bob, they immediately know. Sayre, you got to go to that one.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Why is that? Why is that?
I don't know. It's the names, of course, catchy. When we first started talking about it, I thought they were joking, but it came on, and everybody, like I said, everybody loves it, and of course everybody knows Bobby, so that's a good thing there as well. And but it's it really is a great golf tournament. We've done really well with it. Of course, with the Calcutta and and the Mill on Saturday, and it really is. It's a great time, and for that golf course, we really needed something like that.
Hanging out with Jay Manning here, talking about the goings-on over at Sayre National. Okay, so most people listening do know what the Bob is, but what is the format? How do those 2 days lay out once we get to that first weekend in May?
Yeah, so there's 2 tee times on Saturday, so 7:30, and then of course 1. Or as soon as the first guys or groups get done. But then on Saturday evening, we eat and have a Calcutta, and then on Sunday you'll play kind of to where you were flighted. So the A and B guys, they'll play on Sunday afternoon, and then the C and D guys like myself will be there early Sunday morning. So, but it's a 4-man scramble. There are spots available, and that'll be ramping up obviously, really quick. We've already got some phone calls just the last couple of days of people just making sure that they're in and they're excited about it, and so are we. So very, very excited about that tournament.
Yeah, I've been working on deciding whether or not I'm going to be able to play. And it's all up to J-Mac, basically. If he can have his guys win that super regional in 2 games, I could go over there
Then you
Saturday.
can go play.
If not, I'll maybe meet him later on Saturday,
Yeah.
depending on exactly how that works. So as far as the alumni, it's been full. I mean, gosh, a month maybe, it seems like.
Yeah.
Is there a waiting list that people, if they want to try to get there, is there a waiting list that they can be a part of? And then, how does all that work maybe?
Yeah, there is a waiting list. There's already some names on it, of course. But, yeah, that's it filled up a lot quicker than it ever has, like I said, which is a testament to I think how things are going over there. But yeah, if they want to get on the waiting list, they can call the clubhouse. That number is 580-928-9046, and they can get in touch with me as well, and the girls there they can give them my number. But yeah, I was very surprised at how quickly it filled up, and like I said, which is awesome. It's a good problem to have.
Now. How's your bracket?
Oh man, my champion's still hanging out. I got Purdue, so but other than that, all my little Cinderellas they all lost. So and I picked the wrong ones usually, so that's how it works. But it's not broken, but it's definitely not on the high of the list.
So are you in this contest with us? Is this you Sooners J11?
That is me.
I see the Purdue logo.
Yes, that is me. Where am I at today?
You're tied for 29.
I'll see. Well, I've been stuck there, so
you
had so much promise early.
Yeah, well, my champion lost the very first night.
Yeah, that's
true.
So,
I showed up. I was like, man, what is that X? The big giant red X where it says my name. It turns out that's because your champion loses. You get a big old red
X.
Round,
yeah, that was
you know who's winning?
Loss. Who's winning today?
Atha.
Atha?
And here's the bad news.
I picked Purdue too.
Yeah, here's the bad news for you. You picked Purdue too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
you're going to be rooting. I can tell you who you're going to root against him would be for Houston.
For Houston,
because Jared's got Duke in the Final Four.
Ooh, see, and I got Houston in the Final Four.
So that could be
I'm
a way
little
to
risky with my Final Four. It's going to bite me.
He already lost Baylor.
I lost Baylor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then,
but
of course,
Duke looked good yesterday. So
Duke did look good. Well, I mean, they got to play Vermont.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Of course they did.
Oh, yesterday.
Oh, okay. They got to play. Who they play yesterday?
James Madison.
Another terrible team. Yep, that's right. James Madison. One thing to note about your bracket, you're better than Dakota.
I am. That's very exciting. When you can beat your brother-in-law, that's always a plus.
All right, so same way to get signed up for the Bob. So Jimmy was telling me thought the morning was getting pretty full and there were some afternoon spots available.
Yeah, I think it's the other way. I think the afternoon is afternoon. I want to say there's only 4 spots left in the afternoon. The morning, I think there's still enough there, but yeah, it'll fill up fast. You get people out there for alumni. You see the sign up sheet, and as the weather gets better, people will be out there looking at it. So it'll go fast, yeah. So, but yeah, call the clubhouse again, and they'll get you signed up, or if they need to get in touch with me, they can figure that out. And but yeah, absolutely, we're definitely excited about that one. Like I said, it'll be here before you know it.
Yeah, and if you're, he's not joking. If you want to play,
yes,
before Saturday, it'd be a good time to sign up because Friday night, get some drinks in everybody.
Right.
Next thing you know, teams kind of form out of nowhere.
That's true.
And by Saturday, it's like, golly, there's only 3 or 4 spots left.
Right. That's exactly what happened last year. So.
All right, Jay, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah,
and we'll be continue to push everybody to Sayre National for the Bob because it's awesome. And, I mean, everybody has seen those hats that just say the Bob.
Yeah,
and
cool.
And people immediately go, well, what's that?
Yep.
And then you're able to tell them exactly what it is.
Absolutely.
All right, Jay Manning, thank you so much. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll let Atha gloat for just 1 second, like literally one, and I'm going to cut him off, and then we'll have to talk about the rest of the tournament. Hanging out here on a Monday, we're going to check out the Western Oklahoma Realty Bracket Challenge standings here in just a second. But first, Jared, I went down Friday afternoon. Games were rolling.
Yeah.
And the perfect place to be when the games are going is the Boomtown Grill. Sure. It is the March Madness headquarters. We went down there, finished up. Actually, we started Florida, Colorado, and finished up another one. And it was great. The drinks were cold. Got 11 beers on tap, 30 bottles and cans are available, imports or domestic. It was so good, Jared. I enjoyed Boomtown so much Friday afternoon that I went back Friday evening for supper.
Look at you.
Yeah, we had some wings. Those nachos, the chicken nachos for an appetizer are fantastic. 12 big screen TVs. Happy hour 2 to 6, Monday through Friday. They're open every day of the week, 11 to 10, Sunday through Thursday, 11 to 11, Friday and Saturday. That is the Boom Town Grill, 2103 South Main in Elk City. Go check them out. I mean, it is the perfect spot to hang out and watch a bunch of college basketball.
Cool. Yes.
All right, so.
Fried pickles. I love those fried pickles.
You like the fried pickles?
Oh, yeah.
All right, Western Oklahoma Realty College Pick'em Bracket Challenge. I see you are on top.
I don't think for long, though.
You're on top. Now, your max points
Yeah, that's the problem.
aren't the highest.
Thanks, Baylor.
There's a few other teams or a few other participants where their max available points are a little higher than you. But so far, so good. And I think when I saw your picks pop up, I thought it was interesting, but because before you left, I thought you had talked yourself into believing Houston was the champ, but we didn't get to talk to you after Iowa State dismantled Houston in the Big 12 title game. Was that the reason why you changed, or
a little?
Did you figure everybody else is going to pick Houston, so you pick somebody else?
Maybe I was a little bitter from last year picking them, and they let me down, and then seeing and that helped. But I was kind of thinking, I kind of went the route of when I pick this, I just go shoot from the hip. What's your gut feeling, and then I use a little intel, a little knowledge after seeing them. You know, like NC State, for example. I thought they are on a little bit of a heater, and here they are in the Sweet 16. I picked Purdue because I feel like they're on a kind of like a little vindictive tour right now. You know, they got ousted last year. There's a stat like that first round they've keep losing to inferior teams. So I feel, and then I was leaning on who has the best player. I think Purdue has the best player, and I think they're one of the best teams. That's why I lean Purdue. I mean, I'm rolling the dice with my Final Four, I know, and I've already lost one of them in Baylor. And after the first round, I thought, well, tear up my bracket. But then I failed to realize that, no, wait a minute. After my first round, I still had 15 of 16 alive, and that's what really boosted my numbers. So I was really rooting hard for Baylor yesterday to keep that streak going, but they let me down, and so did who else let me down? I think that was it. I think I
got 14.
14 of 15, or 16.
Auburn getting beat the first round.
Auburn. Yeah, that's the first round comment earlier.
Yep.
Yeah. Fun stat, and you're going to let me brag, 53,000.
What's that?
At one point, I was in the top 53,000 in the country. At one point.
How many are there?
Oh, I don't know. I've dropped into the 160. I'm back with the normal people now.
Yeah, it never tells you exactly how many there are.
But actually, it does.
Where?
I'm ranked.
Find it.
You hit your bracket where you can see your full bracket with picks and misses.
Oh yeah.
The top left underneath your bracket name, I'm at 168,311.
Yeah, I know, but out of how many?
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm talking about how many were.
Yeah,
how many total brackets? I guess you could do the math.
Yeah, I'd love to know that number too. That's cool.
Because I'm 6,969,000.
I think it was after the first 2 games yesterday. I was checking. Of course, that's what everybody does. I check after each game where you at.
I haven't checked it since Thursday. I looked at it Friday.
Since
and
I texted you and I said, ouch.
That's the last time that I checked. It was Friday morning just to see where everybody else was. Yeah, I haven't been doing that. I understand why everybody else is, not me. I have not been doing that at all because I know that it's going to take a lot of things to happen.
Have you checked on our resident Kentucky fan in Elk City? Have you checked on him?
Immediately after that game ended, because I actually called him. We discussed Kentucky, and I sent him a text, and I said, I need your opinion from your head, not your heart. And he called me back about 5 minutes later, and he said, you know better than that. I can't pick anything from my head with them. He said, I will tell you, I think they're the most talented team, and if they get out of the first weekend, look out. He said, but I'm not even sure they can win the first game. I was like, okay, yeah, you're Mr. like Lou Holtz pessimistic. He goes, no, I'm serious. Oakland's pretty good, and they do things that might give us some problems. Of course, us being Kentucky. And sure enough, I kind of checked that score. I can't believe we're doing something Thursday, like when it started. And it was like 17-10, and I thought, oh, here we go. And sure enough, that thing ended up not going the way that you want to. I'm seeing 22 million brackets. That's what we're getting on the text line.
Give or take, yeah.
So what has been the biggest surprise so far to you throughout the first 2 rounds?
I don't know if I should label it as a surprise because I picked them, but I am impressed, maybe it's a better word, with NC State, an 11 seed. Now, they've had some help with, like we just mentioned, Kentucky losing to Oakland, but Oakland gave them a fight. But maybe the more impressive thing was them beating Texas Tech and the way they beat them, just going away. But they, like I said earlier, they came in on a heater. They won the ACC tournament by beating North Carolina. I like this little. I'll think about that this morning. Like, who's the Cinderella this year? Is it them at 11 seed?
Then it's only them.
Yeah, I mean, I bet they're from a major conference and they've played some good basketball every once in a while. These smaller schools but they have higher seeds like Marquette. They're the higher seed. I'm not surprised that Gonzaga's there.
No, I had that too.
No, I'm not surprised. Creighton's a 3 seed. So, yeah, I'm surprised and impressed with NC State.
Yeah, I think the biggest surprise to me is there's 3 of them I wrote down. Obviously, Kentucky. But I don't know how it wasn't shocking. It's still surprising.
They've had a rough year at it, haven't they?
Well, at times, and then next thing you know, they go into Auburn, which doesn't look that great. Going into the tournament, it looked like going into Auburn and being able to play at a slower pace and kind of choke them out. The problem is their record in the tournament since 2019 is awful. They've won 1 game in the SEC tournament since 19, and they've won 1 game in the big tournament since 19. How crazy is that? I mean, that is nuts. Because you go back before that, Calipari, for the decade before, it's hard to find anybody even close to how successful they were. I think four Final Fours every year was at least the Sweet 16. A champion, a loss in the title game, and but that's kind of faded. And speaking of our buddy, the first thing he said was, sorry I talked you into it, and fire Calipari.
Well, I wonder what the feeling is.
I think there's a bunch of them ready to.
Is it hyperbole, or is it reactionary, or is it a real thing because of everything you said?
If there wasn't $34 million to buy him out, he'd have been fired already.
Yeah.
The stuff that I was reading over the weekend was
everything you said is way below their standards.
It is
way below their standards.
It is. It's like he's got two different careers at Kentucky. The first part that was awesome, and now the second part. And, of course, the one and done, he's the king of the one and done. And I wonder if the way the portal has evolved, if it makes it that much harder for those guys. They're not playing – when they play Oakland, 10 years ago, they're playing an Oakland team that maybe didn't have – and of course, and COVID, that's another thing. You look at North Carolina. Have you seen this yet? The average age of North Carolina's starting lineup is basically the same as the Thunder.
Yeah.
And but between the portal and between COVID, there's older teams right now. And I wonder if it'll be reactionary by firing him, if the one and done model will start to work again once some of this these old guys filter out. Armando Bacot's 24 years old. At his size, it's not necessarily a fair fight, right?
Right, yeah.
But eventually here in the next year or so, those guys are done.
Yeah.
And then maybe it goes back to being a little bit more successful because, you can say whatever you want to about they won't do this, they won't do that. They did. We sat there and watched it for all those years to high levels of success. But maybe kids have changed that much in a decade. That it won't work, but
yeah,
I would be surprised if they actually fired him. So I've got Kentucky. The ACC as a whole has been shocking to me. Carolina was a team that was pretty good, kind of up and down. I thought they were by far the weakest 1 seed. And, man, the way they handled Michigan State, that looked like a trap game of all trap games. And they handled them really well. You got Duke playing well. They're kind of they're a lot like Kentucky throughout the year. You either saw some really good or you saw some really bad, and turns out they've been really good for the first 2. You mentioned NC State. There was, 3 teams coming in the same way that all got those last bids that kicked OU out of the tournament. NC State was one, Oregon was one, New Mexico was one. And NC State's been the one team that's been able to roll it through, even though, Oregon, boy, you start to look at what happened in that game against Creighton and the disparity on foul shots and all that kind of stuff. It's like, man, they probably should have won that game. By the way, Yale beating Auburn was shocking to me, especially when you see what Yale did yesterday.
Yeah.
That was just one of those 1 in 100 games that should have never went that way.
Yeah. No, 9 out of 10 Auburn wins that game. But was Saturday, I went to bed happy Saturday because I felt like that in the entire day of Saturday was the most entertaining day of basketball I've seen in quite some time. And it helped with those 2 overtime games that gave us 3 overtimes in total. But I was having fun watching those games.
It's funny you say that because over the last, 5 years or so, I bet I watched more college basketball from Thursday to last night in that one stretch of time than I have combined over the last 5 years. But there was very few, last night, Grand Canyon in Alabama, it was incredibly entertaining. Just nothing happened. I mean, they were just playing so hard, but nothing was happening. I thought A&M and Houston was going to be that way, and it turned out that ended up way more high scoring than anybody would have ever thought with those two teams. But there hasn't been those just like Big 12 rock fights.
Yeah, no.
There haven't been those. And so, I find myself amazingly entertained considering what I think about the product that is college basketball versus what I'm seeing so far in this tournament. I think it's been fantastic up until now.
I've said this before, and it's a sad statement, but it's for me watching this tournament without any investment into it. There's no OU, there's no OSU, there's no ORU, there's no Tulsa. So it's just me watching a tournament and having fun with it.
Yeah, and
it's sad. Isn't that sad to say?
A little bit.
You kind of want one of those teams.
I'll tell you this: I noticed, especially, I'm sure Kentucky losing as my champion, and so I don't even have any investment in my bracket. Mm-hmm. I noticed myself last night, and I think there's a lot of people like this, especially OU fans, that are going to get gravitated more and more and more and more and more to Houston because of Kelvin and how much people like Kelvin when in his time here, how much they still like Kelvin. I think you're going to see, those. That's where the OU fan void is going to be filled.
Right,
it's going to be by Houston and Kelvin Sampson.
Yeah, everyone loves Kelvin. And what's really fun is when you find a team that plays for their coach, and that's always been a Kelvin team, right?
And for each other.
Team.
I mean, you could
exactly. He's always brought that. He brought that in his years in Norman, and I think you're seeing that in Houston too. So Houston Duke is going to be a fun one.
I think there's very, very few teams in the country that could have done what they did last night. There's plenty of them that could have blown that lead the way they did, up 12 with a minute 40 left, and then all of a sudden it was like, what just happened? But to be able to settle everything down, and Kelvin actually mentioned, and I remember when this game happened, he said, we've been here before. This exact same thing happened when they played at Baylor. They had a huge lead. They blew it, went into overtime, and everybody and their dog went, okay, well, Baylor's got the momentum, and Houston won the game. And I thought he talked about how that he thought that helped them in that moment. It was weird to see a team Houston, but A&M did. I mean, they just kicked their tail on the glass. You just don't. It's not something you see, but they had enough to. Every team has a game like that. Every champion has a game like that where you go, oh, this could be it.
Right.
And if they pull it out, then next thing you know, I like that they've had their game. Because they're really Michigan State was in it with Carolina for about a half and a half. Does that make sense? Like till about the 10-minute mark at the second half on Saturday, and then Carolina just mashed the gas, and it was over. Houston's had their game as far as the 1 seeds. They've been there. Marquette just had one as a 2 seed. They had their tough battle with Colorado. So those are a couple of teams that maybe have gotten their loss, quote unquote, out of the way, yet still won. What have been your favorite games?
Oh, where'd my thing go? Well, I mentioned it Saturday. Those 2 overtime games, just for entertainment value.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're gonna have to tell me remember who they were. It was Oregon and Creighton. that one was a lot of fun. And, God, my mind is blurry.
NC State and Oakland was an overtime game.
Yeah.
That would have been on Saturday.
Just fun games. We didn't have a lot of those yesterday with the big blowouts from Purdue and Duke. Didn't have those. You mentioned that Houston A&M game. Admittedly, I had to watch the highlights this morning. I was so tired. But those two on Saturday just goes back to what I said earlier. I had so much fun on Saturday. So satisfied that, man, this is why this tournament is the best tournament, almost the best tournament in sports, is because of entertainment like that.
Yeah, Houston A&M was one, and then another one from Friday. That Florida-Colorado game was nuts. God, it was fun. 102 to 100. I mean, it's just you're seeing scores that you hadn't seen in a long, long time with people putting up points. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. Now, let's start with this. What are your favorite games coming up in the Sweet 16? And then which results do you hope we get maybe for a game or two that we could see in the Elite Eight?
That give us good games.
Give us what you want.
I'm not going to lean on who I picked on this.
Right.
I'm going to just because
if you could choose a couple that we are going to get, and then choose a couple that you hope we see on Saturday and Sunday.
Okay, well, a couple of games that stand out to me that could be really good. I mentioned Houston and Duke. Is Duke for real, or did they turn it on for the tournament? They played Vermont and then James Madison, and they should beat those teams. Mm-hmm. Now you got Houston. So can Duke shoot it like they did yesterday? But they could not miss. And is that their game that they had, that test, and now that's past them? They could take a deep breath and get ready for Duke. So that one looks fun to me. And maybe Purdue and Gonzaga, kind of same thing. Like Gonzaga kind of had their ups and downs this season. They were at one point a bubble team. Here they are in the Sweet 16, and no one's surprised. And then everyone's waiting on Purdue to pull a Purdue and see if they're going to falter again. I personally don't think they will because of what I said, why I picked them, because I think they're on this. They're focusing like we're righting the ship here. This is our shot. But that game is going to be a tough game for Purdue. So a couple games for me.
Mine are on the other side.
First part of your question. Go ahead.
That's funny. Because mine are on the other side.
Okay.
North Carolina, Bama. Maybe the first to 100. I think that's going to be a fun game. And then Illinois and Iowa State. Outside of UConn and maybe and Purdue, Illinois has been sharp in this tournament. Really sharp. And they came in off of a Big Ten title win. They've been really good. And we know what Iowa State can do defensively. This is I've watched Illinois twice. Like both games, I've watched a bunch of Illinois. Man, they look good. They really, really look good. And so that's where I would go. It's funny. You're going to be on the right-hand side of the bracket. I'm going to be over here on the left because I want to see Carolina and Arizona in the Elite Eight. And I thought I wanted to see Iowa State and UConn. I changed my mind. I want to see UConn and Illinois instead of UConn and Iowa State.
I'm trying to give you an answer. But I want to see if a game that I think I want to see has happened. Oh, my God. This stupid computer.
What are you looking for?
Has Duke played North Carolina State? Surely they have.
It could happen. Oh, you mean have they played?
Yeah, and I want to know the result. That's what I'm looking for.
I'll look it up.
I'm just clicking, and I got the wheel of wait. Just waiting. Okay, here we go. NC State. Did they play them? They did, and guess what?
I think NC State beat Duke.
NC State beat them.
Yes.
74-69. Last, I think.
Well, they beat them in the tournament.
Yeah,
I
knew that was on the tip
tournament.
of my tongue. I couldn't remember. So I'm anxious to see a rematch there if that happens. If Duke wins and if NC State wins, they're playing for a right to go to the Final Four.
Yeah, they beat them right before.
I'm becoming this Wolfpack fan.
Duke beat North Carolina State right before the tournament, and then North Carolina State turned around and beat Duke in the tournament.
That kind of started their run here.
And then they went through North Carolina.
Yeah. So that'd be one I like to see. In fact, I picked Duke to beat Houston. But that's one I'd like to see. And another one, what was it? just because it's a 1 into North Carolina and Arizona.
Mm-hmm. And that'll be in L.A., which you'd think that – how about Arizona got a huge what would look like crowd advantage because it's the Wildcats in L.A. and everybody else is from the South, Carolina, Bama, and Clemson. So you would think that it could be McHale large-sized in L.A.
Yeah.
For the Wildcats. And then, of course, we all know where the Final Four is. That was a big part of why I picked Arizona to win it all at first and still have them in the title game. Because it feels like if they got through the first weekend, which Arizona's liable not to, but since they did, now they've got at least an advantage fan-wise headed the rest of the way. Hanging out here on a Monday, kicking around what happened over the weekend in the NCAA tournament, down to 16 combatants left. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then all of a sudden we'll be clear down to the Final Four. You know, it's been up and down with the weather. It's been warm, then it's been cool. It's got a little bit of rain, got a little bit of sun. Do you have a cool season grass, like a shade grass? Or do you have one of those shade grasses that's your entire yard? Fescue or rye or bluegrass. Scott Kelly at Superior Lawns offers not only the weed control but also fertilization for those grasses. And they're starting their peak growing season right now with those cool season grasses, the fescue, the rye, the bluegrass, or what have you. Those grasses are starting their peak growing season, so give Scott a call for him to kind of help you navigate those waters to get your yard looking as good as it possibly can throughout the summer. 580-799-5670. Let Scott get you started on a granular application program, whether it be the fertilization or get those weeds knocked down before it really starts growing. And you have yard of the month, yard of the year, yard of the week with Superior Lawns. All right, do you want to give you a mulligan today, or do you want to do rank your top 16 today?
Explain the mulligan.
So right now, as we hit the Sweet 16, I'm going to give you an opportunity to change one thing in your bracket, but it cannot be
like a loss. Or
yeah, you can't say, okay, Baylor, I replaced Baylor with somebody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They lost. It's too late. Like, I can't – I mean, you can't go, I'd rather have Clemson, since they beat Baylor. Or
well, it can be a game that hasn't happened yet.
It can be a game, yeah, absolutely. It can be a game that hasn't happened yet that you pick that you're kind of maybe looking and going, ugh, I wish I had that team beating that team or this team going further, or maybe you saw something over the weekend where you think, ugh, I wish I wouldn't have picked that team to go that far.
Okay, so I mentioned it earlier, this Houston-Duke game I nailed, but I picked Duke to beat Houston. Now, if Duke and Houston played yesterday, I think Duke may have won that game. But now that because Houston has had that game that we talked about, I think they're going to beat Duke. So if that's when I could just switch,
Right, because you got – so basically what you're saying, you'd rather have Houston in the Final Four than Duke.
Correct.
At the moment.
Correct. I went a little wild with my Final Four, but I'm not feeling too confident about Duke. Even though, like I said, they look good, but they should beat Vermont and James Madison like they did. They should. Those are pre-conference games that I'm surprised hasn't happened. So that one right there, if I can make a switch, is Houston beating Duke instead of Duke beating Houston. How about you?
Yeah, mine would be – it's kind of the same thing except for this game – it can't happen now. But originally, when I first filled out the bracket, I had Arizona beating Houston.
In the title game.
And that's what I wish I still had that championship game, because if that was the case, all four of my Final Four teams would still be intact. I talked about Purdue last week a bunch, and at one point thought the one thing I know is they're not going to make the Final Four. And then as I started looking through the bracket, I'm like, okay, we all know Purdue struggles. They've lost to a 13, a 15, and a 16 the last 3 years in the NCAA tournament. But who's going to beat them? I thought their bracket was by far the weakest.
Yeah.
Kansas wasn't a 4 seed. even though that's what they got. Their name got them to the 4 line. Now Gonzaga, they've been coming on, but I honestly at one point had Oregon in the Final Four because of kind of your NC State theory. They came in red hot, and there's
beat Colorado in their title game.
They really probably ought to still be playing with the way that game against Creighton went on Saturday. There's a lot of things there that went Creighton's way from the whistle perspective for sure. But as I went through, Tennessee's got all kinds of tournament history. Rick Barnes himself has all kinds of negative tournament history, not only at Tennessee but also at Texas. Now here they are in the Sweet 16, and I just didn't think Creighton had anything, even though Kalkbrenner is a good player. He doesn't have anything for Edey. So all of a sudden I was kind of like, wait a minute, they might have the best player, and they damn sure have the most dominant player, the guy that changes everything in every game he plays. And eventually I talked myself into Purdue in the Final Four, and I'm glad I did because, boy, they looked like they're going to be hard to stop. Real hard to stop.
I think they're on a mission. I think they're focused in, and they know this game could be our last. They've all those tough losses they've had in the past. So, about the third time I've said it is that's kind of why I've picked them, because they're on a mission.
And how interesting would it be if the 2 times a school has lost as a 1 to a 16, that the very next year they won the title?
That would be interesting.
How interesting would that?
I didn't even think of that.
Oh yeah,
I wish I had. That is very.
With Virginia, and then now Purdue. It's happened twice.
It's not losing to a 16 seed is not a kiss of death for your program. Maybe that's what you won, and then you could turn around the next year and go win it all.
Yeah, that'd be super weird if that's
the way
it plays out. It's a good
point on the text line about Kansas and that Samford game. Did you see that?
Oh, it's a great block.
Clear block.
I mean, it comes.
And it kind of had any shock that whistle came with Kansas. No,
absolutely not. It robbed us of maybe one of those iconic highlights that we see
now we don't
year
know
in, year
what
out.
would have happened,
sure.
But because Kansas was still leading, I think that put them up 3.
They were up 1.
They're up 1.
They're up 1 with like 15 seconds left when that happened.
Yeah, we don't know what would have happened, but
boy, that was kind of, for people around here, watching the way Gonzaga just dismantled KU in the second half. It was really kind of jarring because that's not something you see very often.
Well, not when you see a team like North Carolina and Duke, these familiar names. Those are the 2 I can think of. Kentucky's. You wish they were kind of. Arizona. Those are basketball schools that we expect to see there. But you kind of almost think, well, Kansas. A lot of people probably lean Kansas because, they'll turn on in the tournament. And I picked Gonzaga because I was curious about Kansas's health.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, Kansas, even when they were healthy, they weren't. And honestly, they just never really kind of got it going. Even though they beat the teams they beat, it still never really felt like this Kansas team completely figured it out for themselves. I mean, you look back at some of the wins they've had. Well, they're the only team in the country that's beat Houston and UConn.
Yeah.
Then they beat Tennessee, I think, too, in that early part. But, yeah, it just never seemed like Kansas got it all the way together for them to make some sort of run into the tournament. So that was you look, and for as much as they –
But to lose like that, though.
That was crazy.
That was nuts.
To see him not be able to score, and, I mean, Gonzaga was scoring every single possession. I think at one point they were like 9 of 10 in the first – or in the second half to begin the second half. They put up that one graphic that Gonzaga had gone over 20 minutes, which is over a half of basketball, and not had consecutive empty trips. I mean, that is nuts against Kansas. And so it was really jarring to see a Kansas team just kind of whimper away the way that they did.
Yep.
Gonzaga obviously had a lot to do with that, and they were humming offensively. But that was really weird to see. You just don't see it. You really don't see it. And what about Gonzaga? Did you have any idea going into this tournament that they'd made the Sweet 16 8 straight years?
No, but it doesn't shock me.
9 in a row now. 9 Sweet 16 appearances. They have been the one immune to the – now, once they've gotten in the Sweet 16, there's been times where people, as a high seed, maybe couldn't handle the pressure. But I said on Friday, after they played that first game, a lot of people like McNeese to be kind of the Cinderella story of the tournament with Will Wade and all the 30-something wins.
Yeah.
And I said on Friday that maybe Gonzaga, for the first time since their Cinderella days, because let's be honest, they're no Cinderella anymore.
No,
they're a blue blood type school. But for the first time in a long time, they've gone into this tournament kind of as a little bit of a Cinderella. They don't have all the pressure of the world on them to try to, get to the Final Four and win that first one. And now, they've got that monster that is Purdue. But as Purdue gets closer, and especially this weekend, you realize Purdue's never made the Final Four. Never.
I think I've known that.
I think the pressure is going to start to mount on Purdue, and maybe that lets the Zags have a decent shot at knocking them off.
Yeah.
I love who's made it. I love that it's not – there's one 11 seed, and like you said, it's a Power 5 school. It's an ACC school that is the 11. Everybody else is like 5s and 6s and 4s and 3s and 2s and 1s. First time – or only the 5th time in history that all the 1s and all the 2s made it into the Sweet 16.
Right.
Yeah, okay. They haven't won it yet.
No, you said type.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter.
That's a type
well.
Of blue blood.
The point is, Gonzaga is not a Cinderella ever again.
No,
because of what they've done, and nobody else has 9 Sweet 16s in a row in the entire country. They have been that good for that long, so they get away from that label a lot. All right, that'll do it. Tomorrow we'll rank the 16 in order from best to worst, teams that are still in the tournament. Maybe talk some Thunder. Thunder lose last night to the Bucks. In a tie in the loss column for the 1 seed with the Nugs, I believe. Anyway, lots going on as we approach Easter on the Skinny on Sports.
You've been listening to the Skinny on Sports podcast with Aaron Cow. Be sure to hit that subscribe button to get alerts of when the latest podcast is available. Thanks for listening.
That ball is blistered